Welcome into the Hustle Show podcast for this Hustle Short on Friday, September 29th, as we get set for Week 5 of college football, Week 4 of the NFL. I'm joined by Brian Power. Of course, I am Mark Zitto. BP at Brian Power _wins because, well, that's what he does. He wins, and he's a winner. He's a winner on the inside, a winner on the outside. But we're here on this Friday, Brian, for our normal segment. College football on deck tomorrow, big game breakdown. Of course, a game that no one's talking about but probably should. How are we on this Friday?
Oh, I'm doing good, Mark. Just 48 hours away. The anticipation's killing me. I will plug this in right now. $2 get you my first 5% NFL play of the season. And I have been anxiously awaiting the kickoff of this game because the anticipation's killing me. But really confident in this one. And if you already haven't picked it up, obviously it's been up since Tuesday. Please, everybody, go ahead and pick that up. It's just $2.
There you go. Don't look now, but what has 2 thumbs up and is on an 8-3 baseball run the last 2 days? This guy.
Hey-oh, there you go.
All right. Yeah, we've had a good run the last 2 days in baseball. Cashed a 5% yesterday. I have another 5% up today over at Sports Memo. Make sure you guys go check it out. Certainly appreciate that. Okay, time for our big game breakdown here. BP, we'll kick it over to you for a Big 12 matchup here that you got your eye on.
Well, no, we're going to start in the Pac-12 first, I believe, is what we're going to do here
for
the Utah. Utah and Oregon State, since it's tonight.
I had our game backwards. Yes, that's right. Okay, I apologize.
Yes, well, here we go. It's all right. There's so much going on right now, but the reason I wanted to bring this one up, Mark, is if you recall last week on the show, we talked about liking Oregon against Colorado. That was a good call by us. And we also said, though, that there might be some real value in betting the Pac-12 the following week, which is now this week, because so many teams were going to be coming off big games. Well, let's recap here. Utah beats UCLA 14-7 last week at home. They did so without Cam Rising again. Of course, they didn't really need Rising when the defense returns an interception for a touchdown early. Didn't even let the Bruins get in the end zone until there were 4 minutes left in the game. Meanwhile, Oregon State, they lose a close one, 38-35 at Washington State. There was a bit of a misleading final. I'll touch on that in a minute. Interestingly enough, now back home, though, the Beavers, who lost last week, favorites over the Utes out to -4. This touched even -4.5 at some shops in the last 24 hours. We don't know if Rising is going to be playing, but we do know Oregon State is on a 13-1 straight up and against the spread run in Corvallis. It's a big revenge spot for them. They lose 42-16 last year in Salt Lake City. But, Mark, one thing gives me pause about laying the points here with Oregon State. There's actually 2, but this is the main one. While the final score last week ended up being close against Wazoo, 38-35, Oregon State was behind 38-14, and 248 of their 440 total yards came on 3 late touchdown drives in what I would dare call garbage time. I don't know if I can trust DJU going against this stout Utah defense. That's the other thing that gives me pause about laying points with Oregon State. Utah's defense is absolutely phenomenal. Part of me thinks the under might be the right call here, but you and I spoke before the show, and 44.5 is pretty low. And it's even 44 at some shops.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a number that if this thing was 50, give me about another 6 points here, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable with it, which is a huge number. But, we don't typically see totals in college in the low 40s. You have to have 2 really good defenses, and you do here. The other thing of this is, my initial gut reaction was to take Oregon State. Very interesting to see how Oregon State, who kind of got beat handily last week, comes in and is installed as a favorite, and the money's been coming in on the Beavers all week long. If Cam Rising isn't going to play, well, then guess what? I kind of like Oregon State here. The home team in this series has won and covered 4 straight. So this has gone really back and forth. Corvallis is just a very, very tough place to play. So got to wait until we know Cam Rising's news later on this evening here, BP.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, I'm with you. Lean to Oregon State, lean to the under, even though you're not getting the best of either number anymore if you do wind up playing that.
All right, for my big game breakdown, I'm going to go to the Deep South's oldest rivalry here. No, it's not the Hatfields and the McCoys, Brian Power. It's not the Zinnos and the Powers. It's the Georgia Bulldogs and the Auburn Tigers as they meet at Jordan Hare. Look, this is a matchup here that I think a lot of people are perceiving is going to be closer than what it really is. Georgia's a 14.5-point road favorite. Total sitting at about 47.5. This game here is one of those games you circle at the beginning of the year if you're a Georgia fan going, yep, it's going to be tough. You got to go to Auburn. It's always a tough place to play. We've seen strange things happen. And this is not a Georgia team that looks very good. They don't look sharp, especially offensively. They've struggled in the beginning of games. They're not getting out to big leads. This is a Georgia team, though, that is not going to lose to this Auburn team because Auburn's offense is bad. Don't be fooled by the numbers we're reading. Their stats come from 2 home blowout wins over UMass and Samford. The other 2 games they played against Cal and Texas A&M, they scored a combined 24 points. 14 against Cal and 10 against Texas A&M. Tigers quarterback Peyton Thorne, there's a word for what Peyton Thorne is. Bad. The 2 games combined, he was 15 of 26 for 138 passing yards and sacked 8 times. Am I to believe that Georgia's defense isn't anywhere near as good as Texas A&M? No, I think they're pretty similar. In fact, Georgia's might be better than Texas A&M. Well, all A&M did last week was hold the Auburn Tigers to 200 total yards, 3 for 15 on third down, and totaled 7 sacks. I mean, I look at this game 2 ways. One, I like Georgia to finally cover their first game of the year. They haven't covered one yet, but I think they get up and over this 14.5 number. 2, it looks like Auburn's team total is at 15.5. If you don't feel comfortable laying the 14.5 because it could be a 24-10 kind of final and you might lose by the hook, I'd take Auburn's team total under. Auburn would have to score 2 touchdowns and a field goal to get over this thing. I don't see it happening. Unless Hugh Freeze does one thing, makes a switch to Auburn's backup, Robbie Ashford, who's a dual threat quarterback, runs more. They use him in certain sets, just to kind of be a wildcat option, back in the old NFL Wildcat days. But nonetheless, unless Hugh Freeze does that and throws the whole thing upside down, I don't know that Auburn really has any chance offensively in this game. Georgia probably gets close to 30, keeps Auburn to 14 or less, and that should be enough to cover this number here.
Yeah, I'll back you up on that team total there, Mark, with this a couple stats, as a matter of fact. Last 6 meetings, Auburn has scored a grand total of 57 points against Georgia. That's less than 10 per game. Not going to get it done. And, you talk about how few they've scored against Cal and A&M this year, the 2 Power 5 opponents. Remember, their only touchdown last week, Auburn, was defensive late. The offense didn't even get it. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough road to hoe, I think, for Auburn. And I think you would agree, though, if Georgia were for some reason not to cover this number, then I think we do set the alarm off, right? Then I think there are real problems. If Georgia comes in here, though, and rolls, then I think they're okay. Obviously, they're not as dominant as they've been the last 2 seasons. We all know that. But this is sort of, for me, Mark, a litmus test on where Georgia really is at in 2023, because they should destroy Auburn between the hedges.
Absolutely.
Tomorrow.
Yes, absolutely. But again, I think you're right. That's when the alarm bells go off. If they struggle with South Carolina for a half and then they struggle with Auburn, there's real concern whether Georgia could be a national championship team. All right, time for our game that no one's talking about, but probably should be. Now you're going to the Big 12. Now I'm ready for this game because I want to hear about it because nobody else is talking about it.
Well, normally I really take this concept to heart and give you some off-the-wall crazy game. We'll stick in a Power 5 conference here. And I'm going to do it because it's a massive look-ahead spot for Oklahoma this week, who has the Red River rivalry against Texas on deck. That's one thing that gives me pause with Oklahoma. 2, Iowa State typically plays the Sooners tough, Mark. Each of the last 8 meetings have been decided by 14 points or less. 6 of those 8 by 1 possession. Because they're 4-0 against the spread, Oklahoma probably a bit overvalued here as well. They're +7 in turnover margin as well. So let's see if Iowa State can protect the football and play defense. I think they're in pretty good shape here because their offense woke up last week, 34 points, over 400 total yards in a win against Oklahoma State. The total for that game was absurdly low. And I think Iowa State almost went over the number by themselves. I think the number was in the high 30s, the over-under. Oklahoma, they've had some sleepy wins this season. I know you're going to probably bring up they should have beaten Cincinnati by more last week. I'm not going to necessarily disagree with that. But total yardage was not that lopsided in that game. And 20 points against Cincinnati is not all that impressive. Remember, Miami, Ohio beat Cincinnati on the road. Also remember, earlier in the year, Oklahoma only up 3 on SMU in the fourth quarter here at home. So it's dog or pass for me on this matchup. I always like unranked teams getting points at top 25 teams. yeah, I think there's usually a lot of value there. And I'll wrap up with this. If Oklahoma doesn't cover here and Texas looks good against Kansas, I think we're going to get a great number then on Oklahoma next week in the Red River rivalry. And I will probably fire on the Sooners as a dog. But that's next week. For this week, yeah, take the points with Iowa State. Game no one's talking about, but probably should be.
You gotta love it. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. A little Iowa State action again. You got extra large huevos betting on that team. I'll tell you that much. I don't have those kind of that kind of chutzpah out there. My game that no one's talking about that probably should be. I'll head to the SEC for the ever popular Missouri Vanderbilt matchup that everybody lusts over. Yes, I know. Missouri Vanderbilt in Nashville. Missouri comes in undefeated. 2 good wins on their schedule already against Kansas State and Memphis. Vanderbilt lost their SEC opener last week to Kentucky. Vanderbilt, their offense is actually better, particularly in the passing game, which was last year bottom 20 in the nation in yards per game. This year, averaging almost 300 at 277. That's 7th in the SEC. Their quarterback, A.J. Swan, a young sophomore, probably needs to learn to be more efficient, limit his turnovers, but he's got a live arm, throwing for a lot of yards, breathe some life into this offense. I look at this Vanderbilt team as a team that has score, that you can play on them to score and score points. And that's where I'm going here in this game, the total over 54.5. Mostly because Vanderbilt is playing against a defense in Missouri that allowed 27 points and 316 passing yards last week to Memphis. That's a team that also averages about 280 yards passing a game on the ground. I think Vanderbilt can get to 20 here. And I'll ask you this question, BP. Do you want to know the only quarterback in the SEC who has yet to throw a pick this year? I bet you don't know his name, but guess what? You're going to know his name. And it's Brady Cook, because that's a quarterback that nobody is talking about but probably should be. The Missouri Tigers quarterback, Brady Cook, is the real deal. Averaging 10.7 yards per attempt. That's the best in the SEC. Hasn't thrown a pick yet, like I told you. He's got 9 touchdowns on the season. This is a Missouri offense that is very good. They average 433 yards per game, and they rush for 152. The Vanderbilt defense is terrible. We saw that. They couldn't stop Hawaii. They allow 384 yards per game on the ground, 384 yards per game, 150 on the ground. They gave up 40 points a game over their last 3 games, including 40 to FCS UNLV. So Missouri should have a field day here. I don't know if I want to lay all the points that Missouri is laying here on the road, but I still believe that this is a Missouri offense here that can get easily to 30, if not 35. I think that Vanderbilt gets to 20, and we get over this 54.5 here rather easily between these two teams and high-powered offenses.
Yeah, I won't disagree with you there. Just one thing to throw in if anyone is thinking about the spread. Vanderbilt, the only 0-5 ATS team in the country. So, not good.
Yeah.
Not good when you can't cover 5 games. I will say 2 pick sixes last week against Kentucky was a real kick in the pants for yours truly. That wasn't a great start till Saturday, but at least Saturday turned around for me after that one.
In the immortal words of the great band Beck, when betting on Vanderbilt to cover a spread, I'm a loser, baby. So why don't you?
There you go. Well, he was more of a solo artist than a band, but I hear what I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah. All right. So make sure you guys tune in every Thursday night for the full edition of The Hustle Show. Last night it was on. Go back to the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Check out the entire show, all the great content and information on The Hustle Show every Thursday. Of course, you can follow Brian Power on X, Twitter, at Brian Power _wins. I'm at Mark Zinno, MarkZinno. So for Brian Power, I'm Mark Zinno. Enjoy your Friday. Enjoy the college football weekend. See you on Thursday for the full show, and go cash some tickets.